This is the first time I think that I went to the beach with Marguerite and several of her friends that mostly worked for Total, a big French oil company. Those are some Libyan kids, I guess, nearby. That's Sylvie. She's or was a Tunisian girl that I guess I think she was a secretary or something at Total. I don't remember exactly how she was connected to the group. So this was kilometer 11, I believe it was, 11 kilometers out of town. There was a kilometer marker every kilometer, and so you went along, and then this was a fairly popular beach. As you can see, there's hardly anybody there. That's Douglas Henderson. He's was a geophysicist for Phillips Petroleum, which had a small operation there, and he lived in the same apartment building as Marguerite. And in fact, he was the one that invited Marguerite to a party that Don Gray and I crashed. There's Marguerite. We, of course, were never invited to anything. Nobody wanted a couple of old reprobate bachelors invading their party, but that, of course, didn't stop us. It's Mary Louise again. Yeah, that's Mary Louise, Pied Noir, French Algerian, who and her family had to flee the country in, I guess, '62 when de Gaulle gave up fighting the Algerian nationalists. So that's not a beach ball, that's a pastek, a small watermelon. It's part of our lunch. I guess Douglas was worried about getting sunburned. And there's Don Gray, Don, my flatmate. So I say he and I invaded this party, and that's where I met Marguerite. That's Mary Louise's son. I guess he was about 20 or something, but he looked more like her brother. He was a nice kid. I have no idea what he's doing now. That's Marguerite's sister, Janine. We lost her a couple of years ago, unfortunately. But she was visiting Marguerite at that time. She worked for a school in France. I think she was their accountant or something like that. But in France, of course, they got 6 weeks vacation a year, so she came over to Libya to see Marguerite and see the country. The beach was one of the few things you could do there, actually. There weren't a lot of other things to do. I guess there was a movie, the Wheelus Air Force Base was there at that time, American Air Force Base. And if you knew somebody, you could get on the base and go to a movie theater there, which we did a couple of times. I was never really a big fan of the beach. I found the beach kind of boring, but there wasn't much else to do. Yeah, that's Jean Marie again, Mary Louise's son. You can see there's hardly anybody at the beach. I imagine this was probably a Saturday or a Sunday. There's Don showing what a versatile guy he is. Oh yes, yeah. This was a little bit of an adventure. Mary Louise's car, which she had shipped over from Europe, Ford Anglia, which had been a great car, suddenly started failing. And in fact, it stopped on the trip here. And in those days, of course, well, in Libya, I don't know if they have a AAA automobile association there anyway. But it turned out that the problem was there's Jean Marie hiding It turned out that he had apparently gone swimming on another time and had gotten some tar on his feet. It wasn't unusual to find tar on the beaches there, left over from the tankers that were purging their tanks and stuff as they loaded and unloaded Libyan oil. And so apparently he took a big ball of cotton and tried to stick it into the gas tank to get some gasoline to clean his feet. And instead it fell inside the tank and then clogged the fuel line. And so what we're seeing here is the car stalled, fuel line being cleared for a while, and then Jean-Marie was kind of not the flavor of the month after that, I think. The solution was actually to have him, I don't remember whether I actually photographed that or not, they'd pull the gas cap off, and while somebody unfastened the gas line at the carburetor, he would blow into the gas tank to kind of force things through. I don't know if it really worked very well, but I guess it probably boosted the fuel pump pressure a little bit. And that's my faithful Sunbeam Alpine, which never had any of those kinds of problems, of course. And it was a pretty good little car. When I left Libya, I sold it. I remember I bought it for 625 Libyan pounds, and then a couple years later I sold it for I think about 425. And I'd saved my money, so I thought rather than do something stupid like invest it, I would go to Sweden and buy a Volvo 1800S sports car, and drove that for 6 years in England, in the UK, and never had any problems. In fact, we drove it all over Europe on more than one occasion. I put about 120,000 miles on it, I guess. Here we're stopping, I guess, at probably an Italian run, probably a hotel bar, and pick up some, in this case, soft drinks. Wasn't that usual for us to be drinking soft drinks, I guess. Usually we drank something harder, but maybe they didn't have anything else there. It was probably Libyan cola and Libyan orange drink. They actually had, there were a lot of Italians still there, or at least a number of Italians that had farms and ranches, and I guess just about every Italian makes their own wine, so you could go out in the country and buy bottles of homemade wine, which was pretty horrible actually, but cheap. There goes Marguerite running off to probably get something at the little store. And this is us inside. Maybe, I don't know if it's the same one or not, but there we've moved on to into some beer, at least some of us. Yeah, that guy's almost certainly, that's an Italian running the place. When Gaddafi took over the country in, I guess, 69 or 68, he essentially expelled all the Italians. Most of them left, I think, with nothing. And of course, the country just got worse and worse and worse. But in those days, it was considered a reasonably pleasant place to go as African cities go. Not as pleasant as Tunisia, though, of course, or Morocco, or Egypt.